right. Let's get into Chris DElia, shall we?
Great.
Absolutely. Okay. So Chris DElia, if you guys don't know, we haven't talked about Chris in a little bit, but every once in a while, the best version of his podcast is when he has his wife on. And I think his wife might actually be helping him. Because there are signs in this podcast that he's a little better. He's not as now he's horribly rude to her, but he's not quite as bad as we've seen him in other episodes. So I think breakthroughs are being made. And Kristen is a budding young therapist, I guess. I think she wants to get into therapy, or the field of therapy. And it seems like she's having some breakthroughs. So let's check in on Chris and Kristen DElia.
At first, we got emails.
Okay. I think we're starting out with just Chris.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's a big entrance.
Good.
Just all up in my
comes through the painting.
Somebody hit me with emailed me, hey, your car lease is going to be up, and I'm like, this is spam. And a day later, I thought about that email and I was like, wait a minute. And I looked closely at it, and it's not spam. It's just the person that I got the car from. And I'm just like, oh yeah, dude, I have to give that car back.
I always say this about Chris DElia. It's I don't even blame him. It's the fault of people that are podcasting alone. Like I hear our boy Stuttering John brag about the fact that he does his podcast alone. He doesn't need guests or co-hosts or anything. It's a really bad thing because it makes you think anything is interesting. You're not getting reaction from the people around you. Like if I go on a rant, David can give me a wise ass comment to realize, okay, maybe this wasn't as interesting as I thought. But Chris just talks about his emails and he's like, hey, I got an email from a guy, thought it was spam. Turns out it wasn't. And he goes on this rant for 5 minutes. Who could possibly give a fuck about this?
Well, he only caught it the next day, though. Why is he losing his car?
That's a good point. That's a great question, David. Why are they repoing his car if he's a day late seeing the email?
I just was like, what business do I have thinking that stuff's spam when it's not spam, dude? See, that's the thing that happens. Once in like 2022, somebody got my email and it went immediately to like so many different somewhere in like
somebody got his email.
Russia.
I'm sure it wasn't a victimized young woman seeking revenge.
Well, it's a great prank to give out somebody else's email to a bunch of companies that's going to send them spam.
And he just hasn't changed it. Like, Chris, emails are free. Just make a new one.
Or Poland or something. And then every morning I wake up, I have about at least nine Polish or Russian emails.
Oh, I see. He's just signing up for pornography sites, and this is what he told his wife.
It's spam, baby. It's spam. That's why I'm not making our car payments.
Oh, I'm sorry, you've never given your email out to somebody and had this problem yourself.
Baby, the car is getting repossessed because Poland is emailing me. They're emailing me porn links. What can I do?
There's not English. Not even the letters that English uses. I get those emails now, and so every time I wake up, I basically just if you email me in the middle of the night, I'm never getting it because I wake up and I just clear them all. So if you're gonna email me at 3 p.m.
Lawyers, are you listening?
So this is why he needs his wife to come in, because he goes on these inane rants about nothing. And that's what the entirety of his show is. Eventually he gets into like news topics and stuff, but he's like, and again, I heard Stuttering John say this, where it's like, I talk about my day and I talk about what I ate for breakfast. I talk about going through my emails. That's not interesting. You could argue it was interesting when Howard Stern started doing that kind of stuff, because no one had really done that before. DJs felt almost like robots. There was a system to what they were doing, and guys like Howard Stern kind of broke that mold. So it was interesting to hear them talk about their day. But what they're missing is Howard Stern had a likability and a charisma to him that made us interested in what he was doing. And he could make the mundane interesting. Just saying, I delete my emails in the morning is not an interesting topic, Chris, on its own.
It would be interesting if he said, I don't delete them.
It would be. There'd be mountains of evidence in there if he doesn't delete any of them.
Next week, I'm talking about a special guest.
Good. Hey, great job, buddy. Thank you.
Thank you.
My Billy's just starting to walk, whatever. I got my, well, not whatever. I got my, I said, actually, you know what? Maybe I'll bring him in later. My wife's going to be on the podcast today. That's why we have this. And she is not ready because she needed to, this is what she said to me. Go in and start. And I just need to get a hair clip. Okay. It's been 4.5 minutes. So, unless you had to 3D print the hair clip.
Yeah, but Chris, we all have our faults, Sometimes women do things like that where they say, hey, just a minute, and they take, 10, maybe even 20 minutes. And that's a little crazy. You also said, when I'm on the road, I don't cheat on you with young women. What are you talking about? We all have our bugaboos, Chris. We all have our hangups that maybe we stretch the truth on. Yours are a little different than Kristen's.
He still wasn't proven guilty on anything.
I understand.
Oh, he's innocent. I understand.
Yeah. No, he's innocent. Innocent man.
But we all know that.
Watching the clock that closely? 4.5 minutes.
Yes,
We're coming up on 5 minutes. That makes a little more sense. But...
He does the show alone, David. He can choose to start whenever he wants, but he decided to start so he could berate his wife over taking a little long. Well, by the way, what ultimately she's doing, we find out, is taking care of their 2 children.
What time is. So
next he's got material.
Oh, good. I'm glad he's got to kill time while this goddamn cunt is looking for a hair clip. So let's see what material he's been working on lately.
Like just carrying around that, and it's too heavy, so he's like dragging it around. Dude, kids, they're so funny, man. And I know sometimes on this podcast I talk too much about my kids, but I don't. It's like I don't care, dude. I don't have to write material anymore. You understand? All I have to do is talk about the day. When I do stand up, I talk about what happened that day with my kids. And it's
here we go.
That sounds so horrible.
It does.
It sounds like his stage act is becoming his podcast, where he's just going to get on stage and think he can riff. Chris, you got canceled, right or wrong. If people think he didn't do anything, that's fine. I think some of those things sound pretty credible, and his response to it made me believe it even more. But whatever you think of Chris DElia, he's clearly not great at just riffing off the top of his head. And if your career goes through something like his did, you should be doing more work, not less. You should not be saying, well, I could just do nothing now and be like, my kid playing with his fucking Legos. It's crazy. Huh, guys? What do you think? You're all kids. You play with Legos?
I was hoping he was going to get into it. He kept saying, oh, it's going to be so funny, everybody. At least give me a tease.
No, he warns us, David, but I don't think we were ready to handle it. That's how good it is you have to show up to his show for him to be like, Tuesdays are crazy, right?
But the rage is building in him right now.
Oh, yeah. So the wife still isn't there. And now we're up to 6, maybe 7 minutes.
It's best if she enters on a big laugh.
That's true. That's true. Yeah. Like Kramer.
Are you coming in?
I am.
All right, cool. She's coming in. That's cool. It's cool. Did you get a hair clip?
No.
You didn't get one?
I had to braid it.
You had to braid it. Okay, that's why it took a long time. So we get it.
Is there one of those things that like you have 10 of, but you can never find one when you need it?
Right. Like
Burley's now.
That's already more interesting material than anything he said.
She's brought a ray of sunshine to this podcast.
She's got a joke with a premise.
She's like, hey, Chris, I was working on this upstairs. He's like, we don't do that here.
Like what for guy? What is that for guys? Talking to my bring that out here.
Oh, sorry, I gotta get Chen's or hell crap.
Okay. Well, he could do it. All right. Okay, this is really great. It's going on really great.
This is the worst part of the show, Chris.
I know, but
you invited her.
But I want you to sit in because
Is this a live show?
Off.
No, it's
no.
not.
He has the power to edit this out, but he think like. Here's the thing: is Chris thinks it's cute, and maybe his audience likes it. Chris thinks it's cute when he berates the way he's like Jackie Gleason
to the moon.
That's exactly right, David. Yeah,
because
you look great. Pro, don't you worry.
You look great.
Oh, poor Chris.
Everybody except Chris is looking at her.
what he suffers through. That's the thing is like you can tell he's so sick of her. And what's weird is like you could easily watch this podcast and be like, Mike, you're being a little hot. Like he's clearly joking. But the weird thing is now, because of the Chris D'Elia problem documentary and many other reports, we know how sick of his wife this guy is. Because every Snapchat message he sent to these girls, he could have just, flirted with them, had a relationship with them separately. But like every message that got exposed of his was like, oh, is this bitch a nag? Oh, God, I just can't stand her. So his cutesy, like, oh, why I oughta, you got a hair clip when you're supposed to be on my show? It's not that cute when we know the ugliness behind the scenes.
Yeah, I don't think he was joking at all either.
Right, and there, like I said, there's stuff where if you just watch this podcast, you could easily think I'm twisting things, but it seems like we know a little more about Chris D'Elia than he likes to acknowledge we know.
If I were her, I would have left him more for the way he feels about her more than his actions.
The way he openly talks about her. Yeah. It's a very go ahead, David.
Well, we criticize people like Cosby and others for having, being so two-faced. It's nice to have somebody who's just the way that he is.
It's a decent point, but he's not fully that, because his apology was like, guys, you got me. I cheated on my wife. And we were like, what about all the underage stuff? And he's like, yep, exactly. I cheated on my wife. You said it, pal. No. We're asking about much more serious allegations. He's like, no, totally. I was a philanderer.
I broke my vows.
Chris, the breaking of the vows wasn't the issue, buddy.
But here we have brain stuff.
This is another one of Chris's wacky idea. It's so cute when he talks about therapy this way. This is a man who claims therapy has changed him. He was once the Tiger Woods / Jerry Sandusky of comedy. But now he has changed. He's a changed man thanks to therapy. And I've been to therapy. I've heard many people talk about therapy and how it's helped their lives. I find it odd that a man who's went through a transformation the way Chris D'Elia has talks about therapy in this manner.
You want to be you brains are weird, right? You're a therapist. You're going to be a therapist.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy.
You don't want to start me off immediately with some brain talk. Let's talk.
No,
about
I don't.
Yeah,
I don't.
let's.
Because you know what I'll bring up. This is my favorite part of your new to. Have you ever been on when we've talked about Kristen DElia, David?
No, I don't believe so. Chris D'Elia by himself.
Of course, yeah. But Kristen, when she is on, always calls him out for cheating. Like the game plan on her is basically like, oh, she's like ignorant. She doesn't know what's going on. But every time she's on this podcast, she calls him out for his bullshit every time. And you see him like clam up and get nervous and be like, no, we don't have to bring that up. And
well, she sounds hesitant to do so. She said, are you sure? Really? He can't help but walk himself into it.
Yeah. It's uncomfortable, but I love it.
My feeling is there is no prenup involved, and she is stringing him along because she could bury this guy if she wanted to.
Well, let's find out.
The brain stuff will come naturally because it's me. So,
right, you'll start talking about your feelings and stuff.
Oh yeah.
Hey,
and I'll make you talk about yours.
Okay, that's good. Sounds good. And we're back. Sorry, I had to take care of some family business. So,
he brought it aside and said, "Please, for the love of God, don't." Why would you cut it like that? Why would that be the timing, Chris?
And you didn't want to cut anything before that.
Oh yeah, right. We watched you berate this woman for the hair clip stuff and set up her microphone and everything. Yet when she says, "Hey, Chris, what if I talked about my feelings and made you talk about yours?" There's an abrupt pause. I wonder what you might have taken her aside to discuss. That's interesting timing.
Oh, the kids are complaining right now. We better stop. I don't remember what we were talking about either. Next we got all Bizaar.
Chris just runs a bizarre. The conversation is weird. His approach to it, it's all very weird.
His face is weird, if you ask me. I don't know how you get it to look like he's always wearing one of those historic clay masks.
Well, he was considered a very handsome young man, but
the situation has haggard him.
It's aged him greatly. Yeah.
Just come up on the microphone.
Me?
Yeah, talk in the microphone.
Like, turn it so if you're going to look at him.
Like the-
Again, to your point, David, why wouldn't this be cut out?
They just came back.
they just came back. Yeah, and they have a producer there, and none of this is chopped out. Yet when she says, "Hey, let's talk about our feelings," there's an abrupt pause.
One of those producers need to start leaking the footage.
Any luck?
Maybe someday.
Like that. I'm so sorry.
Are you evil?
I did not mean to do that. I'm so sorry.
It's okay. You can keep in
You
that
have
he's evil.
no idea.
People need to know.
But the directional needs to go. Okay, I'm so sorry. I
Blah,
feel
blah,
bad.
blah, blah.
How's your finger?
Blah, 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 blah.
Babe, how's your finger?
It's
You
fine.
don't want to give guys ammunition to pop boners off by doing that.
Guys are going to do that no matter what.
Guys gonna be guys, huh?
She's like,
Well,
boy, don't I know it?
I thought he was saying ammunition for the next documentary.
Dave, that's what all those fucking preteens did after the show. They went blah 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 blah, and they just had me.
What Chris is really saying is like, you're too old for me to find that sexy now. So
Here's the thing.
Yeah.
Some guy is sexually attracted to it.
True.
Butterflies in a forest.
Well, now
Bet a
you're
guy
turning
jacked
me
off
on.
to it one time.
Okay, well, the butterfly.
That's something I'd like to talk
now I
about.
gotta walk home. Well, but what about how? What about how? Hold on, before we can talk about. Remember that, but we can talk.
he is,
about
you know, he's like a guy in high. He was a popular kid in high school, where I think the masses would think like, why does everyone find this guy funny? But he was like in with the popular crowd. For some reason, they liked him. But his jokes, there's just nothing there. It's like there's nothing of substance. He just does what he thinks would make young girls laugh.
That was so uncomfortable. I thought, what is he remembering himself doing? There's no way he hasn't publicly relieved himself at some point in his life, right?
I would imagine you're right. Yeah.
You think mistakes just happen like weather?
Yeah.
Yeah. Honestly,
I don't think.
fuck my mouth.
What?
Wow.
I mean, disagree.
Ooh, edgy, Chris. That came out of nowhere.
Hard. Disagree.
Mhm.
Dude, mistakes, she'll be like,
Oh, tread lightly.
Well, listen to what's happening. This is a man essentially admitting to his monstrous crimes.
hey. It's a
This is like when Craig tells me to like, come to the park with him. I'm like, Craig, you don't want me there. You don't want witnesses to this. But I think he's telling all of us, like, please catch me. I can't stop myself. I need you to stop me. And that's what Kristen DElia is doing here.
That's right.
Right. Well, it's a mistake. It's not an accident. It's, you know, I had one take and you had another and one of them was wrong.
That's right. That's right, David.
he made a mistake. That's where you're just like, nah.
But you think
Like mistakes are a thing in the ether that just happened.
I don't think that. I think
Okay.
that
Okay.
We all
Look,
have-
we're here. So
I think that we all
let's
have
hash it out.
brains. Some are really good at some things and some are not so good at others. And I think that
Right.
generally, if we're good people trying to self-reflect and better ourselves,
Mhm.
are trying to better those parts of our brain that are not doing so hot.
She is like begging. She wants Chris to be a better man so badly. And he's literally arguing with her. She's like, hey, listen, I think people, you know, things happen and mistakes can be forgiven. And Chris is like, they just let me go. Let me leave this goddamn family so I can go back to doing what I did best.
This is a mistake versus fault.
Yeah, so he is on such a he's committed to the idea that like mistakes don't happen. Now, this is a man who seemingly has atoned for his mistakes. And yet he's arguing he's anti-mistake.
If I make a mistake, I don't think that blaming and yelling and
So when I
getting upset
And then
is
when-
the way to
and then when I make a
rectify it.
mistake, you don't even really care a lot. Like, or
No.
you care if it's you don't care if it's a like, whoops, I spilled this.
You care if it's a felony. you care if they could make a documentary about it. But short of that,
She hit a nerve very quickly. It really turned.
I like how he's like, his example was, whoops, I spilled this. And she was like, it depends on what you spill,
yeah,
idiot.
I spilled the milk into a 16-year-old.
intentional. Like
course.
if I ask you to do the dishes and you say yeah, and
But
then
that's
you
not a mistake, though. To me, that's just fault. Period.
okay, sure,
I said I was going to do it, and I didn't do it.
right.
Kristen's like, okay, then it's your fault. why our kids will look up horrible things about their father someday. It wasn't a mistake. You're right. I'm sorry. It's your fault.
It's terrible, and those text messages were spilled to the media.
Yes. They spilled all over Snapchat and Twitter DMs.
This is correcting behavior.
Yeah, he's done that very well, it seems.
And it's
You know what? Like, I wonder, like, is it possible? Because after he apologized, the Chris D'Elia Problem documentary is a documentary by Kyle Anderson. If you haven't watched it, you should. It's very interesting. All about Chris D'Elia. And a lot of it is about his time after the break, the cancellation, his apology, all of that. And what we found out in that documentary is that he was still Snapchatting young girls and having a relationship with them, and he would post on social media, loving life with my family, and post pictures and videos of his kids and his wife. And simultaneously, he's like, while he was in the car with his wife, he would be Snapchatting girls and stuff like that. So in that time, he had not learned his lesson. But I do wonder, like, is it possible for that guy to now have changed after the second round of people thinking he's a scumbag? Because he claims he has.
This is a guy that needs a flip phone.
Yeah, exactly.
I just hear, oh God. And I was like, it's okay. I'll go get a
But it was
paper
so
towel.
dumb.
But okay.
I'm mad at it. I'm still mad at me for doing it.
I actually think I have the solution.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
You should know this because you're an addict.
Okay.
Is the way to
And you know what you're addicted to, right, Chris? He always clams up when she's like, you're an addict. And he's like, okay, go ahead. Sorry.
They never could have just gotten sponsored by Autoblow.
people into oblivion.
No, dude.
For instance,
Which just ends there.
And now it's on. Sorry, that was the end of the clip. Now it's on nervous.
He seems nervous and uncomfortable the whole time. If you're uncomfortable listening to Craig right now, imagine how Chris D'Elia feels in this moment.
I'm gonna tell them something.
All right.
So before couples
I
therapy,
probably don't want this.
that's fine. You can cut it, right?
No, it's fine.
Before couples therapy, Chris gets really
No, I
nervous.
don't want to edit anything, as you can tell
And-
by most of this podcast.
A funny thing that I've noticed
Oh, no.
is every time that we're about to go to couples therapy, he's like, "Why am I so anxious this week? It must be because I'm
Yeah, I
like
guess
going to the." He says that every single time,
I
and I'm
just
like,
realized that today, actually.
because we have couples therapy in
Yeah.
like 5 minutes.
Yep.
But he sat down
Ah.
and he was like cracking his knuckles and like breathing deeply, and so I just
I'm
put on.
passionate.
I find that so interesting that every week, like, I go to therapy and I'm never like nervous. But when he's in couples therapy, he's shaking, he's cracking his knuckles. It ruins his entire day. I wonder why. Does that seem like a man that might be hiding something? It's very strange.
What does she put on? The Wiggles? I was really waiting for the end of that sentence. What calms his anxiety when what is she putting on?
Wheels on the bus.
We'll never know.
This is them talking about the therapist.
Okay.
But yeah, I don't, yeah, it's good. He's good. So anyway, that's what happened today, and it's fine, and we're good. But, you think mistakes just happen like the fucking wind, and they don't. There's somebody's at the root cause of that, and we got to figure it out.
Evil.
We figured it out, Chris.
So it doesn't-
Mission accomplished.
Couples
Okay.
therapy, that was pretty much the opposite of the conclusion.
The guy's always going to lose, no matter what.
When is the couples therapist going to tell us that I was cursed by a witch?
That's David. That's literally what he's saying. Where he's like, "Oh, it's the therapist is going to agree with you because you have tits and you're hot." I don't think that's most of what therapy is, Chris. Guys go to therapy and they get help from it. It's not.
Or are they going to
it's not-
therapy
it's not
to
a rigged
live chat?
system.
He's a guy. He wasn't the one giving you the advice.
And he gets it, dude. He goes like this. Well, which was one with the lumpy chest? You win. And that's what I know, dude. But he's like, I got this big dick and balls. We can't win. So
Let's.
He does. He looks at life like a child. Like he is very, in a weird way. A lot of it, what he's accused of makes sense because he is very childlike. Like he doesn't have adult conversations on this show. It's all he makes funny noises. He does baby talk. He makes funny noises, silly voices. He changes his inflection. He talks about things very ignorantly. Like, oh, oopsies, did I just say that? I don't even know what I'm saying about news topics. I'm just a crazy little boy. That is Chris D'Elia's identity. So in a weird way, like everything he's accused of does make perfect sense. And he's found the one woman who says, Chris, this isn't your fault. And he's having an argument with her. He's like, no, you're wrong. It is my fault. Like he wants out of this so bad. It's weird to watch. It's fascinating.
Next we got it's just next topic.
Yeah, just moving right along. They move seamlessly from topic to topic.
What did you come prepared, or did you want to say that?
Yeah, I want to talk about the sex industry.
Dude,
He doesn't like that.
everyone turn this off. This is a private conversation with me.
This is what I've been thinking really deeply about.
Now, why? First of all, him saying like, "Did you come prepared?" He's making his wife come on his podcast because he knows him talking to himself is mind-numbing. So he makes her come on, and then he's like, "Did you bring any fucking topics, you whore, you bitch, you stupid idiot?"
She says, "Yeah, I have a full report. I'm very prepared."
She's incredibly prepared, and immediately he's like, "Oh God damn it!" But this is why we love Kristen DElia on this show, because it has to be intentional that every time she goes on there, she ruins Chris's day.
So we have this giant sex industry,
Check,
right?
please.
And obviously women are a part of it in the sense that men are paying women to get sexual favors.
Check, please.
Men are paying men to get sexual favors.
Check, please.
No, they can't get further away because they would be out of frame. So now they're getting further away, one towards the camera and one away from the camera.
David, you're a guest on that. I consider you family. I consider you part of the show, but you're a guest on the show for all intents and purposes. Can you imagine if right now I said, "All right, David, what topics did you bring?" And you know what? Let's riff on this. I'm going to say, David, what topics did you bring?
The 1976
Check, please.
Super
Check,
Bowl.
please.
I would be saying the
Check,
same
please.
thing. It's a very boring subject, if you ask me. I don't even know who won.
It's funny to drag someone onto your podcast, make them talk about something, and then be like, "Fuck you." Fuck you for bringing this up after I made you talk about something. But Chris, you're a guy, you said for many years, your YouTube channel was called Super Cult until you had to change it. For what reason, I can't really remember. But you called it Super Cult. You were really into having a sex cult. You talked a lot about that. Your wife brings up sex trafficking. Seems like a pretty logical topic for you to talk about. What's making you so uncomfortable? That's interesting. How about examining that and actually having an interesting podcast for once?
Well, he hates this, Mike.
I find that hard to believe.
He's in running things. Who's even asking for the check?
Good point. There's no waiter there.
Like going on Skid Row like night after night
Let me
because they
see
can't
that.
stop, and like
Here's a huge
getting
tip.
getting guys to like sleep
Thank
with
you.
them.
My
They
great
just
experience at this
don't.
restaurant.
But isn't that crazy that there's this huge?
That was a good dinner, huh? Yeah. That was good.
Imagine inviting someone on your podcast just to do that.
You
To
know
them.
what I'm saying,
Oh yeah. Okay. See. Okay, honey.
babe?
I think it's a lot like Michael Winslow's podcast.
Yeah.
Well, he's tremendous with the noises. I did think someone was getting in their car, to be fair, but
So close the window, please.
Let's have some breakfast. That's how far gone this conversation is.
You know what we could do instead?
Oh, check, please.
Let's have a fist fight.
Oh, well, me and you?
Yeah.
No,
she's speaking
no.
for the listeners.
Back
Where she's
to
just
what
like, I
we-
just want to punch you in the fucking face.
So women don't really participate in it, but
That's-
you're
But it's just this crazy, like undercover. It's like the drug industry. Obviously, like both genders freely use like cocaine and all the other
girls
stuff.
do coke off a guy's dick sometimes. Not me. Didn't happen to me.
Right.
I never did it.
Right.
But
Oh
it's
no,
not-
of course not.
It has happened.
Yep.
She's kind of talking like someone that knows something.
And women just straight up don't participate.
Yeah, no, I know.
Isn't that crazy?
It is crazy. Yes, it is absolutely.
She's saying women don't do cocaine. I might turn on her.
Oh no, she's
No,
striking
you
a difference
misunderstood.
between drug use and prostitution.
She's saying like the drug industry is huge, but it's everyone. She's saying what's interesting is how big the sex industry is, and women don't pay for sex, and just how massive that is. Now, what's interesting is they actually could. She's brought up a topic that Chris could participate in and kind of feel free in the way, because the way she's approaching it is, isn't it interesting that men have this in them to cheat and pay for sex and all this kind of stuff? Isn't it interesting that men have that desire and women do, but not nearly at the percentages or the aggression that men do? And she's presenting that like, hey, Chris, let's talk about this. And I'm totally open to talking about it. And he's trampling over her. He's making noises. He's behaving the way a little kid would. It's so uncomfortable. You would think that she bullied her way on the show when he made her come in, berated her for being late, and insulted her for not having topics. It's so
He insisted on not starting the show but letting it roll until she arrived.
It would be like if David texted me and was like, hey, I'm going to be about 10:15 today. And I was like, okay, well, we're still starting at 10. You can join us when you get here. And then for the first 15 minutes, I sat here and looked at my figurative watch and just went, fucking David, this guy, like I had it up to here with him. Is he here yet, Craig? It's been 6 minutes. He's not. All right. I guess we'll just wait for David. It's like, just do something else, Chris, if your guest is late.
To be more authentic, you'd have to say like, it's been 6 minutes and 23 seconds.
I'm counting every second.
Absolutely crazy, and it is wild. And
but like, okay, so you have
Right.
this thing.
Mhm.
What does that say to you about the differences in genders?
women will never understand.
This was the day of and after couples therapy, right?
Yes, that's exactly right. Women will never understand. She's literally opening her ears to you, Chris. She's saying, I want to understand you better. And you're like, fuck you. I give him credit. Like, we did see him cut something. He does cut something out, apparently. But, like, he has her on. He does this. I think he knows is the reception it gets. So I do give him credit for that. And I don't know their relationship. I don't know these people behind closed doors, obviously. Maybe we're rubes for buying into this or dissecting it so much. But to me, it is fascinating to watch a couple that's been through what they've been through, has out what they have out on air, and Chris never once grows or changes through the process.
This is quite a shot, though. She sits tall with legs spread, and he curls up into a ball. It's striking.
You think that speaks volumes about their dynamic?
You could tell who wears the proverbial pants.
Yeah. It's weird because she has like let him do all these things for all it, like, if he's guilty of a lot of the stuff that he's accused of. What's interesting is we always get comments on Kristen DElia videos like, you guys don't know what you're talking about. He hasn't been accused of anything. He hasn't been criminally charged of anything, which is all true. But a lot of the accusations, the reason I'm fixated on them is that he has literally never addressed a single one.
I see. I was under the impression that he had an R. Kelly style apartment building filled with people.
It's very possible. It was more like stuff on the road that he was doing. But like when he came back, he didn't acknowledge what he was accused of at all. And he hasn't since, really. And even when he talked about, he said he went to sex rehab. Didn't talk about why at all. It just happened to be a week after that documentary came out. But he never really mentioned why, never mentioned the documentary, never mentioned the allegations in it. He's said he's guilty of things. So based on Chris's response, you're only left to believe that he's guilty of what he's been accused of. Like that interview with what was it that he did? Soft Wet Underbelly? Is that the show?
Right.
It was an abomination. The guy asked zero follow-up questions. He let Chris completely control it. He didn't ask him about anything. So Chris has never addressed any of the accusations. He's just vaguely been like, yeah, man, sex is crazy. And then Men have urges, and women don't. Ladies, you just don't understand. And that's all he says. And he has his wife on, and she tries to get him to talk about it. And that's as close as we're ever going to get, I think.
I like how he did go with the Kobe Bryant defense. I'm only guilty of adultery.
Yeah. Well, it worked for Kobe. And you know what? It's worked for Chris. He sells out theaters still. So.
Oh, the wife is, the wife. Chris, people are telling me I'm married to a monster. Would you please explain yourself so everybody gets it a little better?
Right. But you know what? You got to say, I think Kobe addressed, he said, I'm not guilty of rape. Like Kobe acknowledged he was being accused of rape. Kristen DElia has never acknowledged that, which is the bizarre part.
I saw Kobe and his wife at Disney. Like,
that couldn't have been them.
No, it was. it was a week. It was like a week after the that whole thing, and she had the biggest diamond ring I've ever seen in my life on her wrist, on her hand.
I remember the news story.
Oh, yeah,
I was there for it, but
it was. They shut down like the antique car so we could get on.
Yeah.
And,
Craig was helicopter watching in 2020 as well, and he's like, "Look out, Kobe!"
A regular Forrest Gump.
Forrest Plump.
Next is avoidance.
Okay.
I had to not, I had to be like, okay, fuck, all right, I'm different. Yeah, I'm different. I'm different. Yeah, I'm different.
Oh, this is the thing. I mean, Craig and I are very aware of this. This doesn't quite touch his Christmas album, but this is a tell. Like, if we ever play poker with Kristen DElia and he starts singing, we know exactly what he's got in his hand, because this is the biggest tell Chris has. When he's uncomfortable, he breaks out into song. It's the weirdest thing.
His wife's dancing with him though, which is weird.
Oh, good.
Different. Ding, 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 ding. Judging you by your looks. Ding, 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 ding. Judging if you're 7 or 8. Ding, 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 ding. Even though you're just a bank teller. Ding, 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 ding. My dick will never be in you. Ding, ding. I'm different. Yeah, I'm different. Some would say it's sexist. Ding, 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 ding. But you're a person. Ding, 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 ding. But that doesn't enter the equation. Ding, ding.
Babe, I'm going to cut that little part and put it when I'm a therapist. I'm going to put it on my homepage.
If I laugh really hard at your jokes, will you stop?
It's a good, genuine laugh. Yeah. Kristen, as you should, because this is your number one patient. This man has so many things that you have worked on that it shows the rigors that you've been through. It's crazy. The idea every time this comes up, he breaks out into song. It's psychotic.
Yeah, we got one last clip.
Okay.
It's just a lost man.
It's interesting on so many levels. The idea that this is his podcast, the idea that this is a man who's been through therapy and rehab. Like, there's been no growth in him. He talks about all these things he's done and how he's changed his life, and his kids are everything now. His kids are his world so much that they're the only material that he does. They're all he thinks about. They're all he wants to talk about. And he's grown and changed, but it doesn't seem like that.
Oh, I actually did have something that I prepared.
Oh, check, please.
Why don't you talk about something stupid like you have been, and I'll go get it.
Oh, I have something I did prepare.
Kristen should be his co-host, where she calls him out of it. She's like, "Will you talk about your dumb shit?" And I'll bring up an actual interesting topic.
My heart say you love me again. Uncry these tears. What, you don't like Tony Braxton? I'll see you later, dude. God, man, it's so crazy how different we are, but then...
Does he really have those thin of legs? Is that his leg?
I assume so.
I don't know how he even got in this position in the first place, but it's the thinnest leg I've seen.
That's good. You connect on humor, and then you connect on other things, too, like... you're lucky if you have a wife or a girlfriend or a boyfriend or whatever that you connect with sexually. Because a lot of people don't. A lot of people just doink for the doink of it. You know what I mean? And
is he supposed to be above that?
A lot of people, Chris.
There's a baby crying in the background.
Name anyone you know like that, Chris. I'll start.
Is there any chance that like she cheated on him and they just called it a wash?
I don't know. I mean, like, again, I don't know their relationship. And if they were able to move past that and he doesn't do it anymore, whatever, like, good for them. It's just weird the way he talks about it, where we all know a lot of things about their relationship. And yet he talks about it in this way where he's like, we have fucking nothing in common, but I guess we find each other funny. So that's what love is, man. Like, Chris, who are you convincing?
That's not good. Scheduled doinking. But sometimes you got to do scheduled doinking to break through the fucking doinking drought.
That's something they learn in therapy.
It's a progressive mind.
He fucks children. His wife is married to one that acts like one.
Listen, I don't know what Chris does, but I know what he's alleged to have done.
Yeah, sorry, allegedly.
There's a doinking drought sometimes where you're just not doinking for a while. And you're like, hey, sweetie doll, 4:30 Wednesday, before I got my men's group, let's schedule a doink sesh. And then, you either do it or don't do it. And then it shakes things up.
Okay.
He's just like, he's begging for us to be like, very good, Chris. You're such an adult now. Like, there's got to be something in his life, like if his parents didn't approve of his lifestyle, something happened to this man where he feels he has to be married. And yet every time it comes up on the show, you can tell he's miserable with it. And he's found the most, again, I don't know what their home life is like. He seems to have found the most accepting woman of all of his crimes. And yet he's so miserable every time it comes up. And even when she leaves the room, there's not a wink and a nod like, hey guys, I bust her balls, but she's a good egg. It's like,
never.
Oh, man, I guess fucking, this is what marriage is, It's like, whatever. Like,
when I look at the kids, it's all worth it. You never really, I'm not sure. I'd like to hear a positive thing from him too. It's a little very negative. Meanwhile, she's going to a crying baby in the background.
Well, to your point, David, I think that's why he talks. He's like, "Oh, having kids is crazy, man. It's so great. It's so fulfilling. I don't even need to write an act now. I just talk about how wild it is to be a dad." Because he's still trying to convince us he's a family man. I don't know why Kristen DElia got in his head that he's like Tiger Woods or Derek Jeter, where he has a brand to protect. Like, if you were a single comic that fucked girls, no one would give a fuck. Why are you pretending you're a family man? Like, who gives a fuck? The problem is, like, they might have been underage. You might have been grooming some of, and you've never once really denied that. You said, I'm not guilty of but you vaguely talked about it. You've never had like a real discussion about this stuff. And then when you've tried to, it's made it worse. The apology, the soft wet underbelly interview, it makes it look like you're hiding something. And then every time you have your wife on and talk like this, it's a terrible look for Chris, I think.
Meanwhile, he's still selling out theaters.
That's true. Yeah, his career's I was gonna say never been better. He's not in movies anymore, I guess. But like comedy wise, I think he's doing just fine. So mazel tov to him. He's still killing it despite all there is to make fun of, I suppose.